So yesterday we got the new coach, but we didn't get the fairy tale. I think we were quite close, but ultimately we didn't quite have enough. I was going to say have enough in the tank. In the build-up to this game, to Graham Potter getting the job, twice in interviews I heard him use this precise phrase, and I liked it, by the way. He said, I need to look under the bonnet of West Ham. He made the analogy of West Ham being a car, and he needed to look under the bonnet to see what was going on. Now, I certainly got the impression that when he was making that observation, that he was talking about the club as a whole. What's the infrastructure like? But certainly there was a lot about the playing staff, the academy, all of that type of stuff. And I just found it quite fascinating yesterday because he really got to look under the bonnet during the game. And I couldn't help but wondering, what he thought. Obviously, ordinarily, you would look under the bonnet before buying a car, but it's not a car, it's a football club, and all you can do is look on the outside, get some advice, which I think he got some advice by David Moyes, who's been appointed by Everton. And I think he probably liked a lot of what he saw and a lot of what he was told. And having watched that high-performance podcast with him on with Jake Humphries, he clearly wants to be at a club where he's going to be given time. And I know if you're an outsider looking in, you'd probably look at West Ham and say, hold on a second, you just sacked your manager after 6 months. Whilst that's true, I don't particularly think it's a reflection. And I think if you do okay at West Ham, you will be given time. He's got a big repair job, and I just think that having looked under the bonnet now, he's probably going to have an awful lot to do. So what I wanted to do was look through the players, and it's a strange one, really, to think that West Ham need a rebuild, but we do. Excuse me, I'll just have a drink there. Been a bit under the weather the last few days, actually, truth be known. So I'm going to do this video, upload this video, then I'm going to curl up. I'm going to take the dog for a walk, go out for a pub lunch, and take the rest of the day off. There you go. But before I do that, let me share my thoughts with you, lovely people. He's got a rebuild, and it shouldn't be doing that. And I sort of flippantly threw a comment off the top of my head, which is he probably needs to get rid of 5 of that starting lineup. It was a throwaway comment. I hadn't really given it too much thought, but so I sort of want to try and process it now. We'll start with a goalkeeper. I know there was a couple of deflections before he fumbled it, but there were points during that game where West Ham needed to distribute the ball quickly, and we couldn't do it. The ball was at Fabianski's feet an awful lot. There's no doubt about it. If you're going to play like that, you're going to have to get a goalkeeper in that can do it. Fabianski was never going to carry on forever anyway. I think I spoke yesterday about the team still being shell-shocked from... It wasn't just the previous regime, it's really the past 12 months. Last 6 months of David Moyes and the first half of this season as well. The team peaked in Prague, really, didn't it? And a lot of it needed replacing. We might have brought 9 players in the summer, but you wouldn't say there's 9 players there fit for first-team football under Graham Potter. But the goalkeeper was something that needs to be addressed anyway. I certainly feel that Areola's shell-shocked from what's gone on before. I think Potter will have looked at that. The first thing he'll have noticed under the bonnet is that's it's not exactly the timing chain, is it, the goalkeeper? But he's going to need it's the brake pads. Okay, he's thinking, hold on a second. I know they're not under the bonnet, by the way. I'm not that silly. I might not know my mechanics, but I know that much. And then you've looked at the defence. Well, okay, Wan-Bissaka, no problem there. If we're going to assume that he's going to play this 3 at the back and he's going to play with the wing backs, I know it was a little bit of a hybrid formation. Wan-Bissaka's going to be of massive use to him. There's no doubt about that. Wherever he plays, he will be pleased that Wan-Bissaka's in the squad. Kilman again, I don't even think it's pointless even talking about it. Kilman will have a big future. And I think Potter will make him better. I really do. He clearly improves players. And so, we think, okay, that's quite positive at the moment from that point of view. Mavropanos, I think Mavropanos has the ingredients to be a good player. But he capitulates and he crumbles too often. Will Potter be able to turn him into a new player? Well, I guess, yeah. A better, newer version of Mavropanos? I don't know. I would be amazed if he didn't look at Mavropanos and at least have immediate concerns. Because it's like I said yesterday, it's like Mavropanos got PTSD. It's like he's got a trauma there. And whilst we were able to hold out for a certain amount of time, he just reverted back to the defence, as I say, that over the past 12 months, which has been horrendous, and regularly ships 4, 5 and 6 goals. I think Potter would have went in there and said, I like this because there's a pragmatist about him. I think he will want to play the good football and that style that he is well known for. But there's a pragmatist in him. He was a defender, wasn't he, I think? So I think at least he probably went in and thought, I've got to sort that defence out. And he tried with one training session and a chat in the dressing room and a coach journey up. They stayed overnight in a hotel. I'm pretty sure they'd have had a late night meeting or whatever. I think he probably made sure we were a little bit more solid at the back, and we were. It's just as the game went on, we got more overrun. Mavropanos, he'll want to sort something out there. Todibo, he does regularly get injured, but I think he'll be a good player under Potter. And to be fair, we're committed to spending 35 million on him, so he's got to make it work. So he's got the basis of a defence there with Kilman, Wan-Bissaka and Todibo. Some more will be needed. Great to see Ollie Scarles there. Brilliant. Thank goodness for the academy. I think that's going to help him out in a big way. If Potter's looking at it and thinking, actually, I need 5 or 6 players, then if 2 of them can come from the academy, that's going to be brilliant, isn't it? So, Soufal, I just don't think there's any future for Soufal under Potter. So he's going to need to be dealt with. Which I'm just going to highlight how much work needs to be done in January. Say in January, what is it? It's the 10th. It's the 10th today or something like that. It's 11th maybe. He's going to have to. This needs to happen now, not January. We're a third of the way through it. Summerville, brilliant. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he's going to do with Summerville. We got a little glimpse into it, and I think if you're going to have these wing backs, you're going to get. We're basically going to get an extra attacker. If he's going to play a wing-back like that, it is an attack. I'm not saying that, I guess the full-backs were attackers under Lopetegui, but Lopetegui wasn't here for very long. I'm talking, going forward in the future. I don't mean us attacking in the game. In the future, we're going to have at least one more attacker on the pitch. I think that's going to be really good. I think that's going to make it more exciting. I think sometimes you can get overly dug into different tactics and different formations, but sometimes, it's like I said, Lopetegui's team was sometimes looked at his best when he had the 2 playmakers in there with Paqueta and Soufal. I think we're going to not Soufal with Soler, and I think we're going to have that with Potter. But I also think we'll have an additional one on top of that, which the wing backs will be almost like attackers. Summerville, he'll be thrilled with. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Lopetegui, but it's hard not to talk about him if you're doing this video. But I think just looking at how dangerous Summerville was, how sharp he is as well. It's not just pace, it's quickness. I mean, I'm sure we have other players that are as fast as Summerville in a straight line speed, but it's his acceleration. It's how quickly he gets into his running. It's how quickly he can knock the ball past another player. And then there was one tackle in particular I thought was really, really good. Absolutely brilliant. So if you're looking at Soufal, if you're thinking, yeah, I can work with him, as I say, I think, certainly Kilman, certainly Wan-Bissaka, so there are players there, no doubt about it. I think if we're looking under the bonnet, we're going to look at the engine. It's the engine room, really, isn't it? And I think if I think, shit, I've just bought a car and I need to replace the engine. He really does. I thought some of Edson Alvarez's tackling was superb, and I thought the way he battled was brilliant. But he is technically not good enough. Too many times people won the ball off him, and we were counter-attacked upon. He's going to need to sort that out. He's going to need at least one midfielder. I think he's possibly going to need 2. Now, is he going to be able to buy 2? No, but I would not be surprised if we buy a midfielder and then he looks and he starts to bring in Lewis Orford. Or, he was not going to bring Freddie Potts back from loan, but next season Potts will be more involved. You're gonna have to. I mean, even someone he's gone now. So even someone like Flynn Downs, he's probably thinking, we could have done with having him here. Will he recall James Ward-Prowse? You can't recall him. It has to be a mutual agreement between the 2 clubs. It depends whether Forest want to do that. I think if we were going to do that, we'd have to give them some of their loaned feedback. I don't know. It's really, really hard to say, and I can really deal with what we had last night. But the midfield is just not quick enough. We looked sharp on the right-hand side and quick on the right-hand side. It's the only area of the pitch where we particularly looked quick. So I think he's going to need to deal with that, and in the success that he's had with Ollie Scholes almost immediately, I think he needs to dip into the academy and, as I say, get Orford and say, right, that's you're going to go in there. It's going to be tough for Souček. I mean, Souček is a battler. I think he'll last longer than Alvarez, but I think that's going to be tough. Which sort of brings us to Lucas Paquetá, who was brilliant at the start of the game, absolutely brilliant. As I said in the review, I thought he linked well with Scholes as well, but he sort of does that, doesn't he? He did that, well enough with Emerson. It's the play acting, it's the histrionics, it's just not good enough. I can't even remember what video I said it. I said it in. I've done. This is the third one since the game. The whole thing when he tried to be a gentleman with Bailey. There's no point doing it because it doesn't get reciprocated. Let the referee stop it, because I think it was almost like an injustice in his mind. Hold on a second, I stopped the ball and I stopped play when he was injured, but no one's stopping it when I was injured. And the fact of the matter is he shouldn't have done that anyway. Bailey wasn't anywhere near as injured as he thought he was. I understand he might have twisted his knee, but no one believed Paqueta was injured, and with good reason. He wasn't injured. Stuff like that just undermines what any manager's going to try and do, and I think Potter will have looked at him and thought, well, I admire his skill, I admire what he can do, but is he going to unpick and is he going to undo what I'm instructing the players to do? So I think that was, that's something he's going to need to be addressed. You can't rely on Paqueta long term because of the court case as well, but it's about getting through, I think, the second half of the season. And he's going to have to try and get a tune out of some players. I don't know what was going on with Soler. I think before this, most people said, Soler's a Potter-type player. He's going to need some time on a training pitch with him to discover what he is. So I don't want to read too much into that yet. I got to say, get towards the end of that game yesterday, the squad looked old. We looked tired. We talked about the engine looking under the bonnet. That the fuel tank was quite empty as well. It's like a mechanic going, whoa, yeah. So we got, we got engine, fuel tank, batteries no good, timing belt, and starter motor was all okay, actually, to be fair. There's a Brucey bonus for us. Brake pads. Apart from that, so it's a lovely little runner. Kudus, it was I found him frustrating in that game. I thought he started really sharply. He's a little bit too selfish at times. I thought he was selfish in the Man City game, actually, so I'm not changed my mind on him there. But I do believe that is easily coached. So he'll probably put aside from your mind whether we're going to buy or sell. Sorry, whether we're going to buy someone else and sell Kudus. As it stands at the moment, he's probably looking at Kudus and thinking, I can coach him. I can coach him to release the ball earlier. I noticed Souček was releasing the ball earlier as well. Well, obviously we've got a problem there with Füllkrug, and excuse me, we were warned. You looked at his record. This should have been looked at before we bought him, of course. But I think from 2019, he missed a ridiculous number of games. The worst thing about that was he tried to sprint and he broke down, and that does not bode well. You cannot build anything around these players. When they're available, it's a right bonus. And I think when he is available, then I do believe that he'll be an asset. From what I've seen, and it's very limited, I quite like it. But you cannot strategiise around that. You cannot plan around someone that's unreliable, and that goes for everything else as well as football. You cannot schedule anything around somebody that is unreliable, and Füllkrug is unreliable. It's not his fault. He is. We used to say it. I'm sorry. We used to say it. Towards the end, we were saying it with Zuma. Füllkrug is broken, and that's that. And it's a real shame. I think you might well find that Füllkrug is, a bit of a super sub role. Maybe almost a bit like Andy Carroll towards his time at the end at West Ham. I think you might well find that he's that. He's obviously not going to get his move back to Germany in his transfer window, because he won't be fit enough to pass a medical beforehand. There were a couple of Bundesliga clubs sniffing around with a loan deal. That's not going to happen. So I think immediately, and I know, look, we made changes. It wasn't great to see Cresswell coming on. I don't mean that as any disrespect. I think he's been a great servant to the club. He really has. But I do wonder if he's looking at that, and he was probably being told West Ham have got a great squad. I think West Ham have got some really good players, but that's different to having a great squad. So I think he just looked at that bench and thought, I don't know what to do. I don't know what he'll do with Guilherme. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't overly pleased with the substitutions, but two things. Number one, I don't think he had an awful lot on the bench to use. And I think number two, I don't think he was able to spend enough time with the players to know what he had off the bench. We'll learn more at Fulham. We're going to learn. We're just going to learn increasingly more as it goes on. Just finally, lastly, Danny Ings. I've been sort of playing this phrase in my mind for the past 10, 15 minutes, actually, to try and find a sort of pleasant way of saying it. And I don't mean any ill will towards Danny Ings, but I sort of don't really, excuse me, I don't really want him to play for West Ham again. I think there's nothing. I find him indicative of what's gone wrong with some of our buying policy. Danny Ings, I say he's old. I wish I was as old as Danny Ings, so don't get me wrong. And he's a good box-to-box finisher, but you need something exceptional if you're going to play in a team that's going to try and build up. And I mean, aside from the finishing, I think Füllkrug can probably finish. What's he do exceptionally? He's really good in the air, and he's really good with his back to goal, and he can lay the ball off to other players. That would be an exceptional skill. Being able to play that blind pass, the threaded pass, that would be an exceptional skill. Having outright pace, that would be an exceptional skill. A ridiculous long shot. Danny Ings hasn't got any of those. Right? Danny Ings is old and slow. And as I say, I've really tried to say that without sounding insulting. It's just a football observation. It's not meant to be anything else other than that. I'm sure he's a great guy, but that I find that indicative of a lot of what has gone wrong at West Ham in recent times, and for that reason, I just would rather see someone else from the academy come in. If he's got to get a wing back, Robinson in the academy, really, really good, really good. Small, diminutive, but very good. If he needs a sort of playmaker there, you've got Dan Rigger there, who's obviously excellent as well. We do have some good players in our academy. We really do. And I would almost rather him almost play a false nine and use somebody from the academy than really see Danny Ings on there again. It felt like we were playing with 10 men. I'm not just saying that because of the chances. He had two chances at the end, and they weren't great. But it's not just that. It was, if you can miss chances, anyone can miss chances. Are you going to be offering something else extra to the penalty box stuff? And it was a no. It's going to be harder. I suspect he's going to play him against Fulham. I hope he doesn't. But what else is he going to do? I don't know. But he's got some time on the training ground. He's got 2 days training, really, hasn't he? Because obviously he's got a travel day, and today will be a travel day and a rest day. Then he's obviously going to have, tomorrow and Monday. He's going to have to find out whether maybe Guilherme can play up front, whether something else can happen ahead of the Fulham game. But yeah, ultimately, I think he's got a rebuild on his hands. He really does, and possibly when he lifted up that bonnet, he looked under and thought, there's more mechanics need doing in, and I thought, but that's what happens when you walk around a car and just kick the tyres, I guess.